Monaco resort is my parents' lifeblood.
Oh, it's a resort now?
With the addition of the swimming pool, we should drive heavy tourist traffic right to our door. Dad, that's bleach for laundry.
It kills the germs. What's the difference?
I'm sorry. You're in arrears on the mortgage.
Just give us a couple months, please. We'll get the money.
How are you, Mr. Demetri?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
I am wonderfully blessed as always, and so are you.
Thanks.
And I love your shirt.
Thank you.
You are the crux of the movie.
Yeah.
You see Woodstock through your eyes.
Yeah.
How did you get interested in, or involved in making the film?
It was a surprise to me because they contacted me through my agent. So I think it's just one of those lucky things that sometimes happens where you might be right for something and someone's aware of you. And so they say, hey, let's bring that guy in. James Seamus saw a clip of me on YouTube because his daughter showed him my stand-up.
Jokes with guitar?
Yeah, I think it's what it was, yeah. So I was like, wow, okay. And it first started with a general meeting where we just talked. And then it became a conversation about this movie. And so they gave me some scenes, and then a couple of days later I did, or I think it was the next day. So I met with them, and then a week later they gave me some scenes. And the day after that they said, we want you to, you know, come in and read with Ang. So I did these 4 scenes for Ang, and then they called me back and said, okay, yeah, we'll do it with you.
Look at this. Some hippie thing's gonna get canceled unless they find a new place for the concert.
Wow, Janis Joplin.
Grateful Dead, The Who.
Well, the locals killed it.
Bummer, man.
Can you connect me with something called Woodstock Ventures?
This is really different from what you've done in the past.
Yeah.
What's the experience like?
Big learning experience. Stand-up I'm more used to because I've been doing it for a while. So with stand-up, there's a degree of control that you have on stage that in a way makes you much more comfortable because you can change as you need to. With this, it was about being more like a student and trying to follow direction and help someone else kind of service their story and make their vision become real. You know what I mean? So it was really different.
Your place looks pretty cool. How many vacant rooms do you have for the next couple of weeks?
Well, it depends on how you define room.
Elliot is a real guy, and he lived in New York in the 60s and also in the Catskills. He'd go back and forth and spend time with his parents up in the Catskills at their motel. And their motel was in trouble financially, it was struggling. The Monaco. At that time, the Catskills were really kind of in decline. Elliot also had a permit for a music festival because he was the head of the Chamber of Commerce in that town. So when he found out that the guys producing Woodstock, this festival, didn't have a permit, he called him up and said, I have a permit. That one thing led to the next, and then the festival happened. I think what was really interesting about Elliot was that he was closeted. He was a closeted gay man in the 60s, and he was Jewish, and is Jewish, in the Catskills. And at that time, in that part of the Catskills, I think, there was a certain degree of anti-Semitism as well as like homophobia. So this guy's dealing with 2 things, I think, to really kind of struggle against in a way.
Vilma, you're hired.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
You won't regret it.
Do you need some kind of uniform?
Oh, I've got uniforms, babe.
Vilma really helps him realize that it's okay to be yourself.
You know what's interesting is Liev told me that Ang told him that Vilma is the angel.
Yeah.
Elliot's angel.
Yeah.
And that makes sense to me now after watching the film.
I remember hearing Ang, those guys talk about that. And Ang had a lot of really well thought out ideas about each character. And I remember him saying that about Vilma, and it's true. I think the way Liev played it was so great because if you looked at the characters at first blush, if you looked at Vilma, you might not think this is a person who's comfortable with him or herself. But what happens is you find out he is. I think ironically, there's a guy who has figured out who he/she is. And a guy like Elliot, who's very repressed, needs that help. If he can see someone like that who's comfortable, then maybe there's some hope for him.
It's such a great decade. Yeah. Such a great movie. Do you have more respect for hippies now?
I do, yeah. Especially I met some real ones.
Thank you so
Great
much.
Great to meet you. Thank you.
It's starting.
Go see this thing.
See what the center of the universe looks like.
It's beautiful. It's fate.
Right there at the top of that hill. You gave them the brownies?